A poor young woman kneels beside her overturned food cart, hands shaking as she gathers scattered bread, whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry," even though she doesn't know what she did wrong. A man stands over her, voice sharp, knocking the cart aside as if it means nothing, while people nearby pause, watching, recording, choosing not to step in. Then, from down the street, 5K9 dogs break into a run, moving with purpose, not confusion. At their lead, a German Shepherd lowers his body, eyes locked not on the noise, but on the threat. What happens next will stop everything and cost them everything. Because by the time their handler arrives, the dogs who protected her will already be called dangerous, and he'll have to fight to save them. But in a moment like this, will justice stand its ground? Or will the truth be buried by fear and power? Before we begin, share the city you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if this kind of story speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe and be part of the journey. Now, let's get into it. It was a mild June morning on Willow Creek Drive, the kind where sunlight settled gently over quiet storefronts and the air still carried a trace of cool from the night before. People moved at an unhurried pace, coffee in hand, keys jingling, small conversations drifting in and out like passing clouds. Nothing about the street suggested that anything was about to go wrong. Leora Vance stood behind her small food cart near the edge of the sidewalk. She was slight, her dark hair loosely tied back, strands falling around a face that always seemed just a little too tired for her age. Her hands moved quickly, practiced, assembling sandwiches with care that came from repetition, not ease. Every motion mattered. This cart wasn't just a job, it was the only steady way she could afford the medication her mother needed back home, where days blurred together between quiet suffering and stubborn hope. She adjusted the cart slightly, unaware that one wheel now edged into the narrow path behind her the space drivers used to exit the small lot nearby. She didn't notice. She rarely looked up long enough to notice much of anything these days. The low rumble of an engine rolled in behind her. A dark SUV came to a stop, too close, too abrupt. The door opened with a sharp sound that cut through the morning calm. Derek Halverson stepped out, broad-shouldered, carrying himself like the street owed him room. His jaw sat stiff, stubble tracing a mouth that had forgotten how to soften. The kind of confidence he wore wasn't built, it was borrowed, shaped by too many moments where no one bothered to push back. Even the space around him seemed to shift, not out of respect, but habit. "Hey," he said, his voice already edged with irritation. "This your cart? You just leave this dirty thing sitting in the way?" Leora turned halfway, startled. "Yes, I'm sorry. I can move it." She didn't finish. His foot struck the metal frame. The cart tipped, then crashed onto its side with a hollow clang that seemed too loud for the quiet street. Bread spilled out. Wrapped sausages rolled across the pavement, some slipping into the shallow gutter where dirty water pooled. Leora dropped to her knees instantly. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The words tumbled out over each other, her voice breaking as if repeating them might somehow undo the damage. Tears blurred her vision before she even realized she was crying, slipping down her cheeks as her hands trembled over the scattered bread. She tried to gather what she could, fingers clumsy, missing pieces, picking them up only to drop them again. Her shoulders curled inward, smaller with each breath, as if she could disappear into the ground and take the moment with her. Derek let out a short laugh, low and humorless. "Sorry doesn't fix anything," he said, nudging a fallen tray farther away with the tip of his shoe. "You're blocking people. That's not how this works." "I didn't mean to," she murmured, not looking up, her gaze fixed somewhere near the ground where her fingers moved too fast and not fast enough at the same time. "I'll fix it. Please, just give me a second." Around them, the rhythm of the street shifted. A man slowed his steps, phone already in hand. A woman paused near a parked car, watching from a distance. Someone else lingered just long enough to take in the scene before stepping aside. A few murmurs passed between strangers. No one moved closer. Derek stepped nearer, his shadow falling across her hands. "You got a permit for this spot?" he asked, his tone dropping, quieter now, but heavier. Leora shook her head slightly. I'm working on it." "Right," he said, glancing around briefly, aware of the attention but not bothered by it. "Then maybe you shouldn't be here until you figure that out." He turned away, as if the conversation and the damage had already ended for him. Leora stayed where she was, kneeling, apologizing, picking up what was left. A few feet away, someone lifted their phone higher, adjusting the angle. At the far end of the street, past the last row of small shops, an open stretch of gravel and sparse trees marked the edge of a training ground. There, Kalen Rourke stood with 5 dogs spaced out in front of him. He looked steady, the kind of calm that came from doing the same thing right over and over. The dogs stayed in place, eyes on him, waiting. He used to be a U.S. Navy SEAL, and it showed in how he watched everything around him, always a step ahead, though this time, something was already starting to slip. "Hold," he said, his voice calm, measured. The dogs held their positions except for one. Rook, a 3-year-old German shepherd, stood slightly ahead of the others, his dark coat catching the light along his back. His ears tilted forward, body still but ready, eyes moving as he tracked something the rest hadn't noticed yet. The sound reached them a moment later. Metal striking pavement. Sharp, out of place. Rook's head snapped toward the street. His body shifted before the command came. "Stay," Kalen said, louder now, stepping forward. Rook didn't hesitate. He broke into a run. The other 4 reacted instantly, instincts overriding training, and followed. "Rook!" Kalen's voice cut sharp, a hint of frustration slipping through. "Stay, what are you doing?" But they were already gone. For a split second, Kalen stood still, watching the line of movement disappear toward the street. Then he exhaled once, short and controlled, and took off after them. Something had changed, and he felt it before he could see it. Rook hit the pavement first. The sound of the street reached him before anything else, the sharp echo of metal, the shift in voices, something off in the rhythm of the morning. He didn't slow down. The others followed close behind, their movement tight, instinct pulling them forward as one. They turned the corner. Leora was still on her knees. Her hands moved without direction, picking up what she could, dropping things, trying again. She didn't look up when the sound of paws came to a stop around her. Her breath came uneven, words slipping out between it. "I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I didn't mean to." Derek turned at the sudden presence. His expression tightened. "Who let these dogs loose?" Rook stood a few steps away, body angled forward, attention fixed. He didn't bark. He didn't rush. The other 4 spread out without hesitation. 2 closed in near Leora's sides, just close enough to form a barrier without touching her. 1 shifted behind her, filling the empty space at her back. The last stayed wider, head turning slightly, tracking everything around them, the people, the movement, the distance. No command had been given, but a line had been drawn. Derek let out a short breath through his nose, somewhere between a laugh and irritation. "Get them out of here." He nudged a piece of bread with his shoe, pushing it aside. Leora flinched. One of the wrappers slipped from her fingers. She reached for it quickly, shoulders tightening, her head lowering further as if trying to make herself smaller than she already was. "I said move." He stepped closer. That was enough. A low sound rolled out from Rook's chest. Not loud, but steady. It held. Rook moved forward, slow, measured, each step deliberate, closing the space without rushing it. His focus didn't waver. He watched Derek's hands, his weight, the shift in his stance. Derek stopped. For a second, he didn't move at all. Then he scoffed, shaking his head. "Yeah? What are you gonna do, huh? Big Furball thinks it's in charge?" He glanced around at the people watching, forcing a small smirk. "Nothing to see here. Mind your business." But his foot didn't come forward again. Rook took another step, closer now. The distance between them tightened, quiet but heavy. Rook's body lowered just enough, ready, controlled, not wild, not uncertain. Derek glanced to the side. Phones were up. People were watching. Something in his posture shifted. He stepped back. Once. Then again. Rook followed, just enough to keep the pressure there. Not chasing. Holding. Then it happened fast. Derek's heel caught the edge of the curb. His balance slipped before he could correct it. His weight shifted the wrong way, and his body went back hard, arms pulling out too late to stop it. He hit the ground in the street. Behind him, a pickup truck had been easing backward, slow, careful, until it wasn't fast enough to avoid him. The impact wasn't loud, but it was enough. A shout cut through the air. Someone dropped their phone. Another voice yelled for help. Everything changed at once. People rushed forward, crowding in, calling out directions, trying to see. A man waved his arms at the driver. Someone else was already calling 911. Within seconds, the space filled. People rushed in, voices rising. Just outside of it, Leora stayed where she was. She flinched at the noise, breath unsteady, hands shaking as she tried to gather what she could. She dropped a piece, reached again, missing it. I'm sorry, she whispered, eyes fixed on the ground, not daring to look up. Someone brushed past her shoulder. She shifted slightly to make space, then returned to the same spot, her gaze fixed somewhere near the ground. The noise in front of her felt distant, like it belonged somewhere else. Sirens grew louder. A paramedic unit pulled up fast. Doors opened, voices sharp and direct, cutting through the confusion. They moved in, pushing people back, taking over. The crowd gave way. Instructions replaced shouting. A stretcher came out. The man on the ground disappeared behind bodies and uniforms. Leora kept her eyes on the ground, never once looking up. The doors closed. The siren rose again, then faded as the vehicle pulled away. Bit by bit, the street settled. People stepped back, lowering their phones, turning away, already talking about something else. The moment began to dissolve. A few voices lingered. She's gonna be in trouble for this. Those dogs too. Guy like that? Yeah. This isn't over. Rook held his ground for a moment, eyes moving across the street, picking up the last of the noise, the shifting movement, the absence of the threat. The tension in him didn't disappear, it redirected. He turned sharply, scanning down the street, searching. Then he locked onto a direction and took off, running hard back the way he came. Kalen didn't slow down. Gravel slipped under his boots as he cut across the edge of the street, eyes scanning ahead, picking up movement, sound, anything that didn't belong. He knew the dogs well enough to understand this wasn't random. Something had pulled them off command, and that alone was enough to put him on edge. Then Rook appeared, running straight toward him. Kalen stopped short. Rook! The dog didn't hesitate. He reached him, circled once, then turned immediately, already heading back the way he came. No confusion, no pause. Kalen followed. They moved fast. By the time they turned onto Willow Creek Drive, the street had already started to settle. A few people lingered, talking under their breath, while others walked off like it was already over. For most of them it was. Leora was still there, kneeling beside what was left of her cart. Kalen slowed as he approached. The dogs were spread out nearby, no longer tense, but still alert, watching the space around her. He stepped closer. Hey, what happened here? Leora flinched at his voice. She didn't look up right away. Her hands paused for a second, then kept moving, slower now, like she was trying to remember what she was doing. I don't know. Her voice came out uneven. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to block anything. I was just... She stopped, shaking her head slightly, like the words weren't lining up. Kalen glanced around. Pieces of the cart lay scattered, food on the ground. No sign of whoever caused it. He exhaled once, steadying himself, then crouched down beside her. Hey, it's all right. Let's just get this up first. She hesitated, then nodded faintly. Together, they lifted the cart back onto its wheels. One side dragged a little, but it held. Kalen moved quickly, picking up what could still be used, setting things aside, organizing without thinking too much about it. Leora watched his hands for a moment, then slowly followed, copying the movements, her breathing still uneven but settling just a little. Was anyone hurt? He asked. She shook her head. I didn't see. Before he could ask more, the sound of another engine cut in. A patrol car pulled up, stopping hard at the curb. The two officers exchanged a look. Did the dogs go after him? The older one asked. Leora froze, fingers tightening. I don't think so, she said. voice unsteady. They didn't touch him. He stepped back and then... She shook her head. I didn't see it right. I'm sorry. That's not what we're hearing, the officer replied. Kaylin stepped in, voice low. I got here after it happened. A brief pause. Then, simple, if they had attacked him, you'd know. The officer studied him. Man's on the way to the hospital. Call says dogs were involved. Kaylin didn't argue that. Ma'am, the younger officer said, pulling out a notepad, do you have a permit to operate here? Leora blinked. I'm working on it. We'll note that. It wasn't harsh, but it didn't help. Kaylin shifted slightly, placing himself just enough between her and the officers. This isn't on her. And your dog's being off-leash in a public area that's on you? The older one said. That one landed. Kaylin gave a small nod. They broke command, he said. I was already coming to get them. The officer let that sit, then nodded toward the dogs. We're taking them in, for now. The air shifted again. Leora looked up slightly this time, just enough to catch part of the exchange. Kaylin didn't react immediately. He looked at the dogs instead. They were already watching him, waiting. He let out a slow breath, then gave a small motion with his hand. All right, he said quietly. Come here. One by one, they moved toward him. No pulling, no hesitation. They followed his lead like they always did. Animal control arrived minutes later, a white van. Metal crates already lined inside. It was routine. They moved fast, loading each dog into the crates like it was just another day. Kaylin crouched down as the first dog was guided forward. He placed a hand briefly along its side, steady, reassuring. It's all right, he said under his breath. Easy. The second followed, then the third. Each one paused just long enough near him before stepping inside. Rook was last. He stopped a few feet away, watching Kaylin, waiting for something more than a command. Kaylin stepped closer this time. For a moment, the noise of the street faded out. Hey, he said, quieter now. Rook didn't move. Kaylin reached out, resting his hand briefly against him, not holding, just there. I know, he said. Rook stepped forward, walked into the crate without a sound. The door closed. For a second, neither of them looked away. Kaylin lowered his hand slowly. I'll fix this, he said, barely above a whisper. I promise. The van doors shut, and just like that, they were gone. The station didn't take long to make a decision. By the end of the day, Kaylin was pulled into a small office, handed a temporary suspension, and told to stay off the training grounds until further notice. No one raised their voice. It was already decided paperwork, signatures, and a quiet warning about liability, like it was just another case. The part that stayed with him wasn't the suspension. It was what came after. If the report holds, the supervisor had said, tapping the file lightly, those dogs could be flagged as a risk. Kaylin didn't ask what that meant. He already knew. Back in his truck, he sat there for a while, hands resting on the wheel, not starting the engine. His mind moved faster than his body. Names, calls, procedures. He ran through everything he could do, everything he needed to check. Then he exhaled once, long and controlled, and reached for his phone. By the time the sun shifted overhead, he had already made 3 calls. One to an old contact who now worked with animal control oversight. One to a former teammate who had moved into private security investigations. And one more that went unanswered. He stared at the screen for a second, then tossed the phone aside and started the engine, heading back to Willow Creek Drive. Leora was there. The cart stood uneven, one wheel still dragging slightly when she tried to move it. She worked slowly, careful with every movement, like she was afraid something else might go wrong if she rushed. Kaylin stepped out and walked over without saying much. Let me see that, he said, crouching beside the wheel. She hesitated, then stepped back a little. He adjusted the axle, tested the balance, then tightened what he could with a small tool from his pocket. It wasn't perfect, but it held better. It'll get you through the day, he said. Leora nodded. Thank you. She hesitated, then asked softly, the dogs, are they going to be okay? Kaylin gave a small nod. They'll be all right. He stayed. There were other things he needed to handle, but leaving didn't feel right. So he stepped in and helped. At first, it was just small things, passing items, setting things in place, handing her what she needed before she asked. Then, at some point, he found himself standing behind the cart. "All right," he said, glancing at the line that had started to form again. "What am I doing?" Leora blinked, a little unsure. "Just take the order. I'll make it." Simple enough. Except it wasn't. "Two with sausage," someone said. Kaylin nodded, turned, grabbed the wrong bread, and set it down. Leora gently corrected him. "Other one." "Right." The next order came, then another. At one point, he handed out the wrong bag entirely, earning a confused look from a customer and a quiet apology from Leora as she fixed it. It would have been funny, and for a second, it was. But every so often, his attention drifted. A passing siren. A police cruiser rolling by. The sound of a metal gate closing somewhere down the street. Each one pulled his focus for just a moment too long. Leora noticed. "You can go," she said softly at one point. "You don't have to stay." Kaylin shook his head once. "I know." He gave a small nod, then turned back to the cart, already reaching for the loose wheel. "Let's fix this first. It's gonna roll better once we get it straight." Mid-afternoon, a sudden shout broke the rhythm. A boy, maybe 8, had wandered too close to a nearby food stand, coughing hard, one hand clutching his throat. The people around him froze for a second, unsure. Kaylin moved first. Kaylin moved behind the boy, bent him forward, and delivered a firm back blow between the shoulder blades. Once, then again, a piece of food dropped free. The boy gasped, air rushing back in, stumbling forward into his father's arms. Hey, you're all right," the man said, voice shaking. He looked up at Kaylin, still catching his breath. "Thank you. I thank you." Kaylin gave a small nod. "He's breathing fine, but you should still get him checked, just to be safe." The man nodded quickly, one hand still on his son's shoulder, holding him close. Yeah, I will. Thank you. I mean it." His name was Marlo Finch. He didn't say much more. Just before turning away, he met Kaylin's eyes. "I'll come find you," he said quietly. Then he guided his son down the sidewalk. Late afternoon, the mood shifted again. The sound of crutches came first. Slow, uneven. Then the voice. "You've got some nerve showing up here." Kaylin was handing a bag across the cart when he heard it. Derek stood at the edge of the sidewalk. Weight shifted awkwardly, one leg braced, the other taking the strain. There was no humor in his voice now, just irritation. There was something sharper in his voice now. "You think this is over?" Derek said, glancing at Leora before settling back on Kaylin. "You got lucky. That's it." Kaylin kept his eyes on him, didn't say a word. Derek let out a short breath. "I've dealt with worse than this. People who make things disappear." He tapped one of the crutches lightly against the ground. "And people who make reports go away." He shifted slightly, the crutch pressing into the pavement. "Those dogs cost me this." His gaze hardened. "They're gonna answer for it." Then, quieter, "And you're not walking away either." Kaylin didn't react, but something in him shifted. Not anger, focus. Derek gave one last look, then turned, moving off slowly down the street. The moment he was gone, the noise returned. Cars, voices, movement, like nothing had happened. "Hey," a voice called out. Marlo stepped closer this time, one hand reaching into his jacket. "I saw it," he said. He held out his phone. "I didn't say anything earlier. Should have." A brief pause, but I got it on video. Kaylin watched the screen, eyes steady as the clip played out. It didn't take long. He saw enough. He looked up at Marlo. "They didn't go after him," he said quietly. A beat. They were holding the line. His jaw tightened slightly. "We all got this wrong." He glanced down for a moment, then back up. "Those dogs didn't hurt anyone." A short pause. "If anything, we owe them an apology." Marlo held his gaze. "If it helps, it's yours." Kaylin took the phone, nodding once. For the first time since morning, he had something real to work with. By morning, the story had already begun to shift. What had been filed as an attack didn't hold up once everything was lined up side by side. The footage was only part of it. A former teammate of Kaylin's, now working in private security, sent over incident logs tied to Derek, short reports from nearby businesses. Same behavior, same kind of pressure. Another contact pulled past police calls from that block. Several had been filed, then quietly dropped. Put together, it showed a pattern that was hard to ignore. By the end of the week, the report was revised. The claim was removed. The dogs were cleared. Kaylin read that line more than once. He didn't question it, he just needed to see it there. Derek didn't come back to that street after that. Charges were filed. And his version of the story didn't hold once the footage was reviewed. The laundromat owner noticed the difference first. The pressure was gone. Business settled back into its usual rhythm. The officer tied to those earlier reports was reassigned while the department reviewed the cases. Things on that block started getting handled the way they should have from the start. Kaylin didn't stay in it. He had already turned his focus back to the dogs. They came back 3 days later. The van pulled in early. Doors opened. One by one, they stepped out, steady under command, settling into familiar ground. Rook came last. He paused at the edge, then walked straight over. No hesitation. Kaylin reached down, resting a hand briefly against him. "You're good." A small pause. "Told you it'd work out, didn't I?" he said quietly. "Sorry it took a while." Rook stayed where he was, close to Kaylin, like that was where he belonged. The center adjusted after that. Training shifted. Evaluations were reviewed again. Dogs that had been pushed aside were given another track work that relied on judgment, not just control. Kaylin stayed on, closer to the work now, more involved in how things were run. Rook worked beside him, not part of a rotation anymore. A partner. Willow Creek Drive settled back into its rhythm. The cart stood straight. The repairs held. A permit hung in place where anyone could see it. Leora worked the same hours, same spot. But something had changed. She didn't rush her words anymore, didn't lower her voice when someone spoke too sharply. She met people where they stood. One morning, Kaylin stopped by during a training walk. Rook at his side, 2 of the others moving behind him, holding distance, keeping formation without needing to be called in. Leora noticed them early. She stepped back for a moment, then came forward with a small paper bag. "For you," she said, "and for them." Kaylin opened it slightly. Everything inside had been portioned out. Rook sat, waited. Kaylin gave a small nod. "Go ahead." Rook leaned in, taking the first piece carefully. The others followed when called. Calm, measured, no rush. Leora watched for a moment, then asked quietly, "They didn't hurt him, did they?" Kaylin shook his head. "No." A brief pause. They held the line. She nodded, like she understood more than she needed to say. The street carried on around them. Cars passing, orders called, conversations rising and fading. Nothing about it stood out. Rook settled near the cart when they were done, lowering himself onto the pavement, eyes open, watching without tension. Kaylin took a bite, gave a small nod. "Yeah, I'd come back for this," he said. "Might even bring the whole team next time." Leora smiled, a little more at ease now. "Then I'll need a bigger cart," she said, glancing down at it. "This one might not survive your team." Rook settled near the cart, resting where he could watch the street without getting in the way. Kaylin stayed there a while longer, finishing the last piece, eyes drifting over the sidewalk as the morning picked up again. Things didn't go back to the way they were, but on that stretch of street between the noise, the movement, the small routines people barely noticed, something had settled into place. And this time, it held. There are moments in life when justice doesn't arrive with noise or recognition. It comes quietly through the courage of one person who chooses to act, and through others who decide, even a little late, to do what is right. Some might call that coincidence. Others might see something more grace at work in ordinary places. In this story, nothing supernatural happened, and yet something was restored. Truth found its way forward. Kindness held its ground. And those who could have been forgotten were not. Maybe that's how God often works, not in grand miracles we expect, but in small turning points. A hand that reaches out, a voice that speaks up, a heart that refuses to look away. If this story stayed with you, perhaps take a moment today to notice someone who might need that same quiet kindness. A word, a gesture, even just your presence, it can matter more than we realize. And if this message meant something to you, you're always welcome to share your thoughts below or pass this story along to someone who might need it. May God watch over you, bring peace to your home, and guide your steps in the days ahead.